World building is a process of storytelling that is a lot messier than it seems. An entire world's structure, biology, and mythos is entirely dependent on a mind that changes itself on how things work constantly until satisfied. So it's completely expected and totally okay to make mistakes or forget things about your lore. And forgetting lore is exactly what brings us here. Hello and welcome to a special bonus episode of the Pantheon of Sandbox. If you don't know what that is, check out my channel or the annotation above for the full playlist. In summary, this is a series of me making my own Pantheon for an OC world I've been developing for a future story. However, this is a detour because I made a slight mistake. In the 5 episodes I've made so far, because I'm a power scaling nerd, I always mention the abilities of my gods and how they are capable of kicking the asses of any Eldritch beings that come around. The thing is, up until someone commented about it, I completely forgot to explain the Eldritch at all. What's the deal with the Eldritches? What are Eldritches like in this universe? Why are Eldritches even here? Why do the gods not want Eldritches in their world? Have I said Eldritches too many times? These are the questions that I asked myself after that comment reminded me I forgot to flesh out this detail, despite it being one of the core aspects of how important and powerful my Pantheon is. And that's why we're having an impromptu bonus episode to fill in this gap in my lore, with the added bonus of having an excuse to draw some Lovecraft stuff for footage. Bonus in a bonus. Bonusception! Just as I've done with the gods so far, I need to understand the original mythos so my adaptation has at least some depth. Like, who would adapt something without any understanding of what makes the source work? However, I am a more casual fan and not much of a novel reader unless it's got pretty pictures. So I consulted the 2 biggest nerds of Lovecraft's work I knew to help me out. With their awesomely nerdy niche knowledge, I can confidently answer the question, what makes something Lovecraftian? With the horrible health and life that led up to his stories, it's no wonder H.P. Lovecraft was able to write what he knew best incredibly well, and that was madness. His stories are characterized by themes of struggles with sanity and the curse of knowledge. Messing with forces or seeking out knowledge that are beyond our current understanding of things is a guaranteed way to get wrecked, be it physically, mentally, or worse. And yes, there absolutely is a worse. Humanity is not meant to know how small they are. In the vast ocean of existence, we are not even the plankton that are meant to be here. We are the seahorses. We are randomly here, and our uniqueness makes us believe we are incredible, but we can't even swim properly. We are not meant for these seas, and thus we are never prepared to know what the actual big fish of this analogy truly are. Lovecraftian horrors, eldritch beings, non-Euclidean creatures that are so beyond our mortal comprehension to the point they not only break our minds if we look at them, but also twist and warp reality itself around them. This is why they were cast out of our material world, for the safety of us and reality itself. These things are so alien, so wrong to our understanding, that they make everything both physical and mental wrong to match just by existing. Because they shouldn't exist, and yet they do. And that's more wrong than beyond anything we could ever believe, even in our wildest and most horrible dreams. Speaking of, dreams are an important aspect in Lovecraftian lore, as the dream realm connects the dreams of any being that can dream across the multiverse. However, the chaos of mortal imagination makes it the perfect link between the Eldritch and the people of Earth, infecting their minds in order to re-enter reality once again. These things are able to influence human minds into believing that their insanity and wrongness is the true way of life. That our existence is meaningless, so why not give it up to those higher on the existential food chain that'll make use of it, even if it ends everything we hold in dear. That's why cultists are such a staple enemy of this genre. They are the ones sacrificing lives, their own or innocent ones, and messing with forces that our kiddie pool can't handle, going as far as to enable, create, or become the small fish or traditional monsters themselves, all in the pursuit of their inspirational deluge. The true danger of Lovecraftian horrors isn't that they are a mass of tentacles and eyes that make reality glitch, but for their sheer influence and how hopeless it is to escape it. Even just stories of stories about these things are enough for their infection to start swimming in your mind. You can't just blow up the interdimensional hentai and be safe. The entire point of this horror is that even survivors of Eldritch encounters are mentally scarred, terrified by the awareness that these things exist and anyone could be their proxy. Coming face to face with an Eldritch means you've lost the moment you were born. The only people who win these stories are those who aren't part of them, the blissfully unaware. Fear of the unknown ain't got shit on the horrors of knowledge. Yeah, heavy but interesting stuff, huh? Well, now that we understand what Eldritches are all about, it's time to adapt them into my own world. It's funny that we discussed how Eldritch's whole thing is their influence changes the world around them, and just knowing they exist changes your perspective. Because as soon as I learned about these cosmic calamari clusterfucks deal, I ended up retconning a bit of the origins of my Pantheon. This bonus episode suddenly became a really important update to my lore. The creative process is just ridiculous. Originally, the people of the old world lost faith in all the pantheons because over time they disregarded them as mere myth and preferred more, quote, monotheistic religions. So I basically said that Christianity was the reason the gods panicked and the old world got paved over. While it is true that Christianity took over a lot of the religious side of our real world, I realize now it's kinda mean to blame all of Christianity for the end of the world in my world building. As much as I find fun clowning on their religion due to the many rotten eggs and their stank over the generations, I can't villainize it cause that would in turn bully the plenty of genuine good eggs, including one of my bestest friends. It's the exact same thing as saying everyone in a fandom is toxic, but it's just a very loud portion and not everyone in that fandom is a crazy shithead. What I'm trying to say is I apologize for the blanket statement style of narrative, and thus the following retcon is meant to further remove my story from reality in a way that doesn't antagonize the entirety of a specific group and their beliefs. So unless you weren't paying attention to the first half of this lore dump, you can probably guess what the new reason things went cattywampus for the old world is. Humanity as normal grew independent from their worship of the gods. The loss of faith was worrying. Some gods were desperately clinging on at least being remembered, even if as just stories, but that's kinda like the bare minimum. Luckily, there were still a few religions active in the modern day, so some divine forces were still active in keeping things afloat. Unfortunately, the pantheons became lackadaisical, unaware of a hidden infection swimming beneath the surface. It's not known where the Eldritch originated from, but what's for certain is they were able to sneak in through the dreams of mortals and spread their influence. It started out just seemingly benign, creative communities becoming more unhinged, politics became a lot more misguided, a few cults popping up ranging from ridiculous to heinous. Nothing really concerning that couldn't just be chalked up to human nature. But as the years went by, things got worse and worse. Bad day after bad day, horrible event after horrible event. Fear, anger, despair, hatred, and madness. It all just grew in frequency and soon enough intensity. Cults began to pop up more regularly, each with a different idol and iconography of worship, but parts of their ideologies and aesthetics were similar enough to have a semblance of connection. Any investigators that tried to pursue the answers were met with the answers and either disappeared, went insane, joined one of the cults, or combos of any of those outcomes. Old world mortals can't really deal with this Eldritch shit. It's both an invasive species and a pandemic on an extra-dimensional level. Even just letting a weird symbol graffiti on a wall linger in your awareness lets in the tadpoles. This world ended up as a Call of Cthulhu campaign gone wrong. Constant nat 1s. Does that game even have nat 1s? I don't know, I don't play cock, but I get plenty of it! But yeah, the gods only started to notice this wasn't normal human crazy when the Eldritch spread into what little sources of belief they had left. By that point, it was too late. With mortal faith now corrupted, Eldritch influence went from an infection to an apocalypse. A decade of worldwide viral crazy reached its logical conclusion The barriers of reality weakened, smashed open. Waves of madness from the great beyond flooded throughout the lands. As the big fish leapt from the depths and were able to surface for all to witness and drown. All the Pantheons joined together to eradicate the Eldritch, and while they were victorious, the damage was done. The land was stuck in a warped state, unrecoverable. Most of the people either became brain dead from witnessing their glorious influencer fish in 4K HD, or were collateral in the struggle. After the dust settles, blah blah blah, the gods blamed each other and some blamed themselves, blah blah blah, an idea was proposed to reset, blah blah blah, an unnecessary divine battle royale, blah 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 blah, blah blah. After all that shit, now here we are in Sandbox. The new Pantheon of Sandbox has learned from the mistakes of the past. Eldritches still slip into the world of dreams, known in this world as Wonderland. However, its creator, a deity we'll be covering another time, much later, has domain expansion from being a dimension around the planet itself to surrounding the entirety of this reality, a sub-universe of pure imagination acting as a firewall. Nothing gets into the Sandbox verse without going through Wonderland first, a place that can even overwhelm Eldritches with how chaotic it is, which is exactly the point. The gods have a randomized rotation of which of them patrols Wonderland to erase anything fishy that gets lost in the sauce trying to dirty their waters. On the extremely rare instance an Eldritch did slip into Sandbox, the god that was on duty is in charge of hunting it down, either cleansing its influence out of someone or vaporizing a fishy that has jumped the dream border. After their hubris finally caught up to them with the death of their old home, complacency in divinity is no longer tolerated. Even less tolerated is these freaky fucking fish. For any Lovecraft nerds out there thinking I'm going against the point of this horror by making it possible to stop Eldritches from doing their thing, my story this world building is for isn't horror-based to begin with. Mortals are still helpless and hopeless against them, but it's the Pantheon's duty to keep that from happening in the first place. It's taking inspiration, but not completely abandoning the themes being adapted, just making them work within the tone and lore of my world. If you still think I'm an idiot and disrespecting your favorite thing, cope! For the artwork itself, I really wanted to showcase the idea of the big fish busting through reality and unleashing a world-ending flood of pure madness. And boy did I succeed! This thing is both incredible and hurts my eyes in a weirdly thematic way. It took me way too long to finish this, but it was worth it. I might just sell this as a print. I think it's actually good enough for that. So yeah, that's the video. Just a bonus that suddenly turned into a major update to my lore that may inspire ideas for conflicts in the story whenever I get around to making it, which may be a while, but whatever. I want to give a shout out to my brothers, Eldritch Bob and Narfi. Thank you for being total nerds. I wouldn't be able to solidify this lore or make this video possible without you. And thank the rest of you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Next entry in the series will be whenever I get it done, but honestly might take a small break after working on this massive piece for the last, I think, month? I don't know, time is illusion. And maybe do a different kind of video. Regardless of what I do next, I hope you'll subscribe to see more of my stuff, and as always, hope you'll have a good one. Don't let the fish bite.